As many of you know, I love the Ocarina of Time. And at the heart of any good Zelda game are the dungeons. Specifically in Ocarina of Time, it is the temples. So I figured I'd do a top 5 on, the best temples in Ocarina of Time. Now some of you out there might be saying, aren't there only 5 temples in Ocarina of Time? To that I would say, shut up smartass. Let's go. At number 5 we have the Shadow Temple. The Shadow Temple definitely has a very spooky, creepy atmosphere to it, one that appeals to a lot of different people. To go with it, there are traps littered all across this dungeon. Numerous blades falling atop you, numerous platforms you have to float to, fans trying to push you off. This is probably the dungeon with the most traps in it. What also works well too is the 2 items you get around this time, the Lens of Truth and the Hover Boots, are both used to conquer all these traps throughout the dungeon. Probably the biggest room in this dungeon, the biggest part of this dungeon has got to be the boat ride all the way in the basement. I mean, you can't complain, it's a pretty good part of the dungeon too. It's basically a free cruise, up until it all goes Titanic on you and crashes and falls to who knows where. My biggest beef I have with this dungeon is how straight it is. It pretty much is you start at the beginning and just work your way down the stairs all the way to the basement. You really don't go off that often in different rooms, or ever really go kind of backtrack in the dungeon. It's basically a straight path. I mean, most of the time when you get a small key, you use it in the room adjacent to the room you just got the small key in. In some cases, you get the small key in the room that you use it in. That doesn't really make much sense of why there'd be keys in that case. I do like Bonga Bonga though. It's a very up-tempo kind of battle. The only thing is, being one of the last bosses in the game, why does he have so little health? Who knows? And one last thing too. I hate that re-dead sound. Number 4, we gotta go with the Water Temple, which is notoriously known as one of the worst dungeons in all of Zelda games. But I don't really mind it as much. It does have a pretty nice layout. You have the main room in the middle with that kind of the big tower, and you have 3 floors with 4 different directions each floor, which allows for a lot of ways to explore this dungeon. And built all that exploration, it did lead to a lot of interesting puzzles. The layout did incorporate a lot of different ways you could explore the dungeon and thus utilize the dungeon. The mini-boss battle against Dark Link is pretty epic too. Now, of course, there's the usual complaints of the dungeon, first off being that a lot of the exploration is contained via the water level that you're at. If the water is all the way to the top level, you can't really explore the bottom level all that well. And if the water is all the way to the bottom level, there's no way you can possibly reach the top level. So you have to always have the water at the correct level, which can get kind of annoying. And also in doing that, it features a lot of traversing the water, which requires you to switch from the iron boots to the Kokiri boots back to the iron boots, which gets quite tedious. And in the process of also maneuvering around the water and also raising the water level up and down, very easy to miss small keys. In order to get to Dark Link, you have to find 4 small keys. You miss one of them. That's a shame. And also, I must say, Morpha, kind of a boring boss fight. All you gotta do is stand in the corner and just be patient. But hey, at least you don't need to swap boots in that battle. That's a plus. Number 3 is the Fire Temple. This is a temple I feel like I always visit, and you just have a good time with it. You get to save a bunch of Gorons who are kindly enough to give you hints and small keys, which is kind of a nice little twist to the dungeon. The dungeon is actually fairly simple if you think about it. All you gotta do is just climb your way up to the top floor. In the process, you beat this flaming dude. You get a hammer, you go back down to the middle floor, you smash a pillar, the pillar drops down to the bottom floor, you beat a flaming dude again, and there you have it. You basically just go up and down. But hey, it's a pretty fun adventure throughout the process. In the Volvagia boss fight, it's gotta be one of the better ones in the game. You don't have many opportunities to attack, you have to be very defensive in the fight and wait for your opportunities, which makes it pretty intense. Just make sure your whack-a-mole game is on point. And number 2 is the Forge Temple. This is the first dungeon you face as an adult, and it is a great way to transition, kind of the easier child dungeons where it seems more like all fun and games, to when you realize this is serious as hell. You gotta admit too, the music here is very, very cool. What's also great about this soundtrack too is it's kind of a mysterious soundtrack, which is the great thing about this dungeon. A lot of the rooms are foggy, you're not really sure where you're going entirely. It's designed very well where you can kind of explore all the dungeon without really exploring much of it. The big gimmick of this dungeon is trying to find the pose, which I must say are kind of cool, although nearing the end gets a little, I'd say a little dull. They could have hidden the posts probably better. The Forest Temple also probably has the best boss in the game in Fan Ganon. I mean, you can't complain about the guy. First, he does all this painting stuff, which is like, wow, he's going in and out of paintings. That's a pretty cool magic trick. And then you play tennis with him. I mean, I kind of felt bad for killing him. He's my tennis mate. He's a bro. It's a great dungeon. As long as you aren't a dummy, you'll know Spirit Temple's obviously number one. I mentioned before I think this is my favorite dungeon, and it's going to remain that too. I mentioned a few times this list that I'm big into atmosphere and layout, and I think Spirit Temple has the best of pretty much any Zelda dungeon out there. It's divided into two parts. The first part you do as a child, the second part you do as an adult. I think a lot of people might be annoyed that you have to return to your childhood to begin this dungeon and help out Naboo bitch, I'm not sure what her name is. And I think a lot of people could be annoyed by that, but I think it's actually a little nice little idea they incorporate in. It allows you to use every single item you've got in the game. You can use the slingshot, boomerang, all items you can only use as a child, but you use them to effectiveness here. At the same time, you can use your bow and arrow longshot as an adult. You can use them to very well effectiveness in this dungeon. It's a really neat idea they had here. While I will say though, the boss fight, I do like the concept of fire and ice, but I wish the mirror shield was a little more accurate. It was kind of hard to control that thing, and I kind of got my ass kicked by Twin Rova. Oh well, great dungeon. And there you have it. There are my top 5 temples in the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. If you're still confused on why I'm calling this a top 5 and not just a list of all the temples, or if you disagree with my list at all, then fuck off.